A glimmer of hope came out of the Korean peninsula this week when a delegation from the South announced that northern leader Kim Jong-un was open to talking to the U.S. about denuclearization. If true, it's a real breakthrough, and U.S. officials have been a mix of cautiously optimistic and all-out skeptical.
Hope springs eternal, but we need to learn a lot more relative to these talks.
They seem to be acting positively. I'd like to be optimistic, but I think maybe this has gone further than anyone's taken it before. Nobody's been in the position. This should have been handled long ago. And again, as I said, hopefully we'll go in the very, very peaceful, beautiful path. We're prepared to go whichever path is necessary.
So is this real? And if it is, does Trump deserve any credit? Joining me are Katharine Moon, a political science professor at Wellesley College. Kathy, it's good to see you. And non-resident senior fellow at Brookings, I forgot to say that. And Carol Saivetz, senior advisor at MIT's Security Studies program. Carol, it's great to see you again, too. Is this thing real or no?
Who knows?
Well, I surely don't. That's why you're here.
It's huge as a piece of news, but let's be real. Let's be real. The division of the peninsula it's over half a century. The tensions with the United States, also over half a century old. The escalatory rhetoric between Trump and Kim in recent months, over the top. It's going to take more than just good feelings and optimism to make this thing real.
Well, it appears that the President Moon in South Korea thinks it's real. I mean, the South Koreans are the source of all this information. The only thing we've gotten out of North Korea is actually a state, the official state newspaper today suggested something different, saying how necessary their nuclear might is, how proud they are of it, et cetera, et cetera. But who knows what that means?
But think about it this way. Now that they have successfully tested the missiles and successfully tested the atomic weapons, why not? Now is a really good time for them to try to make amends. And the other thing that I've been reading is that the sanctions are really beginning to hurt. And that if he is concerned about staying in power,
Kim Jong-un,
staying in power, then now might be the time to make these overtures.
But can I quote Kathy Moon, or not quite verbatim, who knows?
Right.
Because we've been here before.
Definitely.
With Bill Clinton, with W, with Obama. There's been great hope, and then it's been destroyed. So this is not an atypical moment in presidential history, right?
No, I don't think so. And I think we also have to think about the other policies that President Trump is pursuing that actually run counter to this.
Tariffs?
Possible trade war with China. Why would they cooperate?
Well, also the South Koreans are not happy about the steel tariffs, right?
Right. So you have that. Putin is playing a really interesting double game. On the one hand, they're very interested in things easing off so that they can build a pipeline to Korea. On the other hand, they're shipping oil. And flouting the embargo.
Could you explain, when I hear the word denuclearization, the thing that makes me skeptical as a non-expert, unlike you two, is they're not giving up this stuff. Maybe containment. No. I mean, so if this is real, what's the best the United States and its allies could hope for in some ultimate deal?
Denuclearization, if it were to happen, would be a really long-term process. You can't just go in and disassemble nuclear weapons and then say it's done. I think right now, first of all, Kim has not said that he would denuclearize directly to the United States.
Not directly, no, through the South Korean
channel. And even
to
the South Koreans, there are conditions. He wants security guarantees. But in reality, the U.S.
What does that mean, security guarantees?
But that's the whole point. That's the questionable part of it.
Is what it means.
Is what it means, and how much could we give them in order for them even to contemplate that?
But with North Korea, I think it's pretty clear historically what they mean by security guarantees, which is right now, under the circumstance of a Trump-Kim nuclear standoff, no nuclear first use. That has to be a commitment for both the U.S. and North Korea. For North Korea, the reduction and eventual elimination of withdrawal of U.S. troops from South Korea, that has always been on the table for the North Koreans historically. And then ultimately a peace treaty to end officially the war, the Korean War, which never really had an end.
Could a trust level be reached between the two parties and that those terms could ever be agreed to?
I want to be a diplomatic optimist and say yes in the long run, but in the short, medium run, it would be a hard, hard road because we don't even, forget the trust, we don't even have the right people in the United States government to participate in the talks. The South Koreans and North Koreans are better placed because they have people dedicated to this kind of work.
Assuming that there is reason for optimism, here's a guy who thinks Donald Trump deserves a huge amount of the credit. Here he is.
We've been given tremendous credit because the Olympics was not going well. And when they came in out of the blue and they said, we'd love to participate in the Olympics, it made the Olympics very successful. President Moon of South Korea was very generous in his statements as to the fact that we had a lot to do with that, if not everything.
You know, whether it's the threats of fire and fury, whether it's the incredibly demeaning, puerile tweets, or the economic sanctions, it's fair to say that the guy who most people think understands nothing about foreign policy probably got us to this point. Isn't that a fair statement?
I think it's a fair statement, and I'm sure that Donald Trump, as you just ran the tape, will take full credit for it if there's any kind of
an agreement. But don't you think there's some truth in what he said?
I think there's some truth in it, but I wouldn't go too far because there's a lot in the implementation of any kind of even getting the talks set up. And as Kathy said before, we don't have the right people. We have no ambassador in South Korea. We don't have the negotiator. He just quit.
Yeah, but Barack Obama won a Nobel Peace Prize having accomplished virtually nothing. I mean, even getting to this stage is, I know it's really hard to say these things, but I mean, I can see on your face, but it does, most people think it's a sanction. You don't think the sanctions have gotten?
No, I would disagree that Trump should take as much credit as he's taking.
Well, not as much. He said everything.
But also the sanctions have been hurting. But the question is, are sanctions so important and the impact of the sanctions so important to get North Korea to give up weapons? My answer is no.
But are they important enough to get it to this point?
No. See, I would say it's not one factor, right? One causal factor. The sanctions definitely might help facilitate the speed at which the North Koreans have decided to come to the table with this offer. But in my view, North Korea's actions are domestically determined. I would bet that they had been planning on this kind of a move somewhere down the road after their nuclear program was satisfactory up to the standards that they decided.
You're not quite ready to award the Nobel Peace Prize yet, is that correct?
We also have to remember that these are UN sanctions. These are not only U.S. sanctions.
But pushed by the U.S. unanimously approved. Kathy, it's great to see you as always. We'll stay in touch. Carol, thank you.